All right, guys, we are in the last era on our timeline of life, and this is the Cenozoic. It comes after the Mesozoic, after the big KT extinction event. So the KT extinction event wiped out almost all the dinosaurs that weren't avian. And after that event, probably, well, we're not entirely sure what caused it, but we're pretty sure that a meteorite hitting the Earth had something to do with it. And in fact, we know that a meteorite hit the Earth and formed the Gulf of Mexico. So that probably had something to do with it, but there are some other things that may have played in it as well. So anyway, big, huge extinction here. KT extinction event. Not as big as the Permian extinction, but pretty big one. And that gets us into the Cenozoic. Now, we have been talking about this period by period, but we're actually going to cover all the Cenozoic era at once. So the Cenozoic era is 70 million years ago until today, actually. This gets us all the way caught up. And it is divided into two periods, the Paleogene from 70 million years ago to 20 million years ago, and the Neogene from 20 million years ago till today. And then each period is further divided into epochs. So I'll just quickly say them, but we're not going to talk a lot about them. But the Paleogene is divided into the Paleocene, the Eocene, and the Oligocene. And then the Neogene period is divided into the Miocene, the Pliocene, the Pleistocene, and the Holocene. So lots of different ways to look at how this is divided. The Cenozoic is generally called the age of mammals. So we had the age of reptiles, that was the Mesozoic, but the Cenozoic is mammals. And that is because mammals, after the dinosaurs and large air and sea reptiles went extinct, the mammals kind of rose up to fill that void. So a lot of the small animals grew into much larger animals. So an example of that would be the Eohippus. This is an early form of the horse. And the Eohippus was pretty small, about the size of like a dog, about. And that evolved into the Mesohippus a little bit later. I'll put them down here so that you can see where they fall on the timeline, because actually they're pretty close to where they would be. But you can see the Mesohippus is a bit bigger. And then that eventually evolved into the modern horse over here. So the mammals just kind of got bigger as they filled that void. Of course, not everything was just a big linear event like that. Another thing that happened with mammals is that some of them returned to the oceans. So my favorite is the Ambulocetus. Ambulocetus. This is a mammal that returned to the ocean, and you might be able to think of a mammal that lives in the ocean right now. It's the modern whale. The Ambulocetus is actually an ancestor of the whale. So if you look at a whale's bones now, you can see what used to be feet and arms and stuff. It's really cool. There were a few super cool kind of weirdo animals. Some of Em and my favorites are the Chalatharium. This guy looked like a horse, but is not actually related. If you look at the feet, it has these like claw things instead of hooves. So it kind of filled the same ecological niche as the horse, but it's not actually related to the horse. The Paraceratherium. This guy here got to be 16 feet tall. That's a darn large herbivore. And then my favorite, guys, is the Platybelodon. check that guy out. So apparently this creature ate by taking its teeth and just kind of going back and forth with them to cut things down and then eat it that way. So there were a lot of these very highly specialized animals at this time, mammals at this time, that developed these, what looked to us, very weird mouths or feet or fun horns, you know, just, and it was kind of life trying out different things, basically, and seeing what worked. And all of it worked for them, but not everyone continued to evolve. In the early Neogene, grasslands appeared. And this was pretty important because a lot of these guys were grazers. And so the horse, for example, did very well because it was well adapted to graze and run on the grasslands. And so it continued to get these long legs and be able to run really well. And some big predators evolved to take advantage of the big grazers on the grasslands. And one is the Smilodon, or saber-toothed cat. So far, we've kind of been talking about things that aren't really around anymore, or that have evolved into different things, right? But let's talk about some things that are kind of familiar. In the Pleistocene epoch, we had one of a great ice age, and it's the one that we think of when we say the ice age, even though we know that there were ice ages before, and we've talked about some of them. But the Pleistocene had an ice age that we know a lot about, and that's the one where you find woolly mammoths. So if you go to Morrill Hall and see Archie, he is from the Pleistocene. But what also evolved during this ice age was us. The first Homo sapiens, the first homos appeared in the Pleistocene epoch. And they evolved into Homo sapiens, modern humans. And that is the end of our timeline of life for now. But what's cool is that it'll just keep going and going.